Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk. I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, coming at you from here in South Jersey, as people like to refer to it, with our fun weekend that we had here. Coming to you from New Jersey, I got three special guests with me tonight on our live edition, as we're going to be diving into rule number 6, the officials' nemesis, the kick game. So joining me tonight, we got Mr. Daniel Chamberlin, who at this point I think you're all pretty familiar with. Daniel, thank you once again for joining us. What a crazy, hectic week you've had going on so far.
Of course.
We got, once again, Mr. Coach Chip. Coach Chip joining us from Georgia. So we got Oklahoma, we got Georgia. Coach Chip, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm golden, brother. I hope y'all are fine.
All right. So Coach Chip and Daniel have been on the show previously, and also returning from, gosh, Tom, what was it? Episode 2, I think. You were one of the OGs.
Yeah, it was early.
I got Mr. Tom Barlow rejoining us once again tonight. Tom is the author of the PowerPoint slides that I have been displaying here to everybody that I have kind of stolen from him, but he didn't trademark it, so it's free game for all. But Tom, thanks again for joining tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, tonight we are going to be diving into Rule 6, which is going to be talking about our kick game, our scrimmage kicks, our free kicks, things like that. And, well, this is where the crazy stuff happens for us officials, because this is where you have, on the simple part, you got 250-pound individuals running full speed at each other for a length of 40, 50 yards at times to try to, kill the ball carrier. And then you got some blindside blocks. You got some wacky stuff with the ball and who touched it first and where did the ball go out of bounds. So we got all the fun things going on here. So it's, I don't know, kick game I was listening to, it's probably about maybe 20% of the actual game when you break it down to number of plays. But this is where the crazy stuff happens for us officials. And for those that watch the game on Sunday in the NFL, you probably the most penalized aspect of the game itself when you start seeing that. So, gentlemen, before we start, Daniel, once again, let our listeners out there know where they can find you.
Absolutely. I'm Daniel Chamberlin up here in Northeast Oklahoma. I do a few podcasts. They keep stacking up. I got the football coaching podcast with Joe Daniels, where I got my start. Several hundred episodes over there with him. And then a couple of years ago, I started the Coaching 101 podcast with Kenny Simpson. So I got a Virginia guy on, keep you East Coasters happy. I got a guy from here in my neighboring state, Arkansas, to kind of keep it, bring things back home. I guess I just need to add a West Coast guy and make another show, and I'll have the whole country. But you can find me there. And then I have Chamberlain Football Consulting, where I help primarily youth coaches right now. Varsity guys don't generally reach out for help too often. We all think we know what we're doing. So I think we look for help in secret. You know what I mean? We go listen to podcasts. But, if you need help with making graphics or getting a spring install or a fall install or conditioning, whatever you need help with, hit me up at Chamberlain Football Consulting at gmail.com, and I can help you out.
And Coach Chip, how about yourself, sir?
You can find me at Football Talk with Coach Chip on YouTube, Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast, which Mike D and I did the whole podcast. You be on mine, I'll be on yours last year.
Yes, sir.
And I retired from the classroom several years ago, retired from coaching last year after some health issues, and have dove deep into my online presence just to try to stay involved in the game. And anytime somebody says something like you said, hey, you want to be on Tuesday, or originally it was Friday, and I'm like the fat kid from Remember the Titans, baby. Somebody said football, and I came running.
Yes, sir. And Coach, you also have something that you've recently published. Am I correct?
Yeah, I wrote the book 3 years ago and been selling it as an ebook. My offensive line manual went up on Amazon in March, and it's doing really well. It's only $30, and they can contact me at siegel.chip@gmail.com, which I wake up in the middle of the night saying siegel.chip@gmail.com because I say it so much. And I can hook them up, and they don't even have to deal with Amazon if they don't want to. But Amazon's good because they handle all that marketing and promotion stuff, but they sure do take a big chunk out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But Coach Chip, I've conferred with him a number of different times on his jet manual and stuff like that. He puts out some great stuff out there. So the coaches that are listening, take a good look at this stuff. He's the real deal with what he brings to the table. So.
Oh, real quick, the jet manual, the offensive line manual for gap down backer blocking, the big book of bucks, and then the gun power spread system. Those are the 4 publications.
All right. And Mr. Barlow, last but not least. What's up?
So Tom Barlow, obviously don't have my own social media endeavors here, but
Smart
on
man.
Instagram and all your platforms. Not that I post much, but information about officiating in New Jersey, you could go to NJFOAshore.com. All the information's there, and the contacts page will get to me because I'm the organization's second vice president and secretary. So basically all communication is coming to me from the chapter. But yeah, I've been officiating now. I think this upcoming year will be my 15th season. 5 as a referee and crew chief. Started dabbling a little bit in the college level as well. Past few years. But yeah, same as everybody else here. Just love the game. I played in high school, so was happy to stay around it by officiating, and now love officiating just as much as I love playing. So happy to talk football and rules anytime.
All right. And lastly, you got me, Mike D'Ambrosio, Mike D, the referee. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always like to say, if you are enjoying the show, please hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, hit the comments button, give me those thumbs up, those thumbs down, the middle finger, whatever it is that you want to do. The algorithm just likes to see people that are responding some way, somehow. Coach Chip before mentioned that I'm like the asshole professors with one thing that I pulled on him before we started production tonight, but I am not the asshole person. But I've been called worse. I've been told a lot of things. I am thick-skinned. I got those stripes on come Friday night, so I'm used to it. And also, if you are enjoying the show, I'm going to post up here. I got my Buy Me a Coffee, where on my website it's actually Buy Me a Beer. Mr. Chamberlain's not joining me in the cheers tonight. Mr. Seagle is drinking out of his Yeti, so he's got it kind of hidden, but that's all good. Yeah, Daniel's got his moonshine in the jar right there. He's lying as water. But
I don't use a Yeti. I don't use a Yeti.
It's just his microphone.
It's just a plastic cup. My microphone's a Yeti.
But so yeah, you got all those different spots, and hopefully we get some people following us tonight on our YouTube channel. You can find me at Mike D, the referee, on all the different social media. So now that we got all of that fun stuff done, let's dive in to what we really came here for. Let's talk about the kick game. So we're going to share the screen over here. All right. So there, once again, Tommy stole this for his cadet class from me. Lied. But so here we go. Rule 6, the kicking game and fair catches. So we're going to kind of dive into this. So as we normally do, I kind of throw the first meatball here to Mr. Chamberlain. So we'll keep that tradition going. So Mr. Daniel, would you like to take slide number 1?
Slide 1, Rule 6, definitions. Kick, intentional striking of the ball with the knee, lower leg, or foot. A free kick used for kickoff, or a kick following a safety. Or you have to remind me what FCFK is.
Free kick after fair catch.
There we go. Man, see,
you already failed the quiz.
Any kick from in or behind the end zone during down, so it could be a place kick, a punt, or a drop kick. Kick ends when a player gains possession or when the ball becomes dead, not in player possession. And then, of course, a kick is a kick is a kick is a kick.
Which
what we
Daniel
love
and I have
around here.
talked about a number of times, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that again tonight. But the kick stays a kick until it's not a kick.
That's right.
Simplest fashion.
And who decides it's no longer a kick, Mike?
Usually are
Usually who?
the receiving team.
Okay.
No, we're going to dive into that more for you there, Coach. That's why we have you here tonight for those questions. So we got it from the coach's point of view. So, Mr. Barlow, would you like to take slide number 2 here? I think you're kind of familiar with these.
Sure. I hope I would. This was only 5 or 6 weeks ago now, but I think I can remember on year 4. Free kick lines are always 10 yards apart. That's the serves as a scrimmage line for each team. Unless moved by penalty, case free kick line will be their own 40-yard line for a kickoff, the 20-yard line for a kick after safety, and through the spot of the fair catch or awarded fair catch for a free kick chosen after a fair catch. Punt cannot be used for a free kick other than after a safety. And K can kick from anywhere between the hash marks on their free kick line. The referee does, although not very common, has the authority to move the free kick lines to compensate for field conditions. And you would have to move both so they are 10 yards apart. Once K selects a location between the hash marks, they cannot move it unless otherwise allowed via Rule 4, which was if there's a dead ball foul or other way we're going to replay the down. They can choose a new location if they please.
So, with the panel that we have here tonight, we probably have, probably almost 100 years worth of football background between the 4 of us that are here, give or take. How many times have you seen the referee move the kick in a different spot other than from between the hashes? Coach Chip, you have?
Dude, I coached in South Alabama for the better part of my 40 years.
So you saw
I've
some
been
weather.
in some places. Yeah, we're talking about they're moving the ball on every down to get away from fire ant beds back in the old days. Now, that's, it's funny, but it's true.
Yeah, I believe it.
Dude, we ran one time, and this is a play from scrimmage, but it applies to the kicking game too. We ran to the wide side of the field 10 plays in a row, and it was to the right every time because they kept marking on the left hash because there were so many fire ant beds on the right hash. You've never seen kids get up so fast after being tackled.
Oh, wow.
And so, I have seen them move it. And I even told them one time, and I said, nobody's going to make it to the end zone anyway. I said, move it up, move it back. I don't care.
Yeah, so now moving it laterally, I've seen a lot of different times, especially on the kickoff. We've moved extra points over and different things like that. But moving it up and back a couple of yards, I don't know that I've actually ever seen that, especially for the kickoff. But as long as we still have that 10-yard buffer between our 10-yard neutral zone, I should say, we're still good. So the referee does have the right to do that, as Tommy was mentioning.
Yep.
And there's a little graphic here of 2 schools, but you got the ball being kicked traditionally off the 40-yard line here in the high school level, unless there is some type of infraction. And the defense is back behind the 50. So we got our 10-yard buffer there. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I see those teams line up at 15 yards, I'm coming with a surprise onside kick.
Hey, Mike.
All right.
Is there a penalty on R if they retreat too fast?
There is not.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Because, and again, that's where we'll have guys that'll line up at 15 yards instead of 10 yards, or we traditionally like to keep everyone like around 11 yards to give them that little 1-yard buffer. But if the team is playing really deep and all of a sudden they're bailing out, well, again, you're going to see a lot of surprise onside kicks, which we are still allowed to do here in the high school level. So we don't have to declare it like the NFL does. So Rule 6, 1-3, and 1-4, we got our free kick formations. After the ball is marked ready for play and until the ball is kicked, no player can be beyond the free kick line other than the kicker or the holder. The infraction here the penalty is going to be encroachment for a 5-yard penalty. So windy day, like we were just talking about, the weather's playing a factor. You got a kid come in and they're holding the ball for the kicker. They can be in the neutral zone while they're holding the ball in that scenario. And again, when the kicker, usually it's their plant foot, kicks the ball, their foot's going to be inside the neutral zone as they're kicking the ball. So kind of like your center having a hand in the neutral zone, we're going to give the same latitude there for your kicker and for your holder. No K players may be more than 5 yards behind K's free kick line, with the exception of the kicker. So me as an umpire, I'm back behind with the kickers. I'm looking at all of the heels of the kick team, making sure that they are not on the line, that they are within that 5 yard barrier. I'm reminding them before each kick. And only one player is allowed to be beyond that 5 yard area, and that is the kicker. And this does come into play with those surprise onside kicks, because you will have the play where the dummy kicker comes running up to the ball and then somebody else from the side comes and kicks the ball. Unless they're both inside that 5 yard buffer zone, it's going to be an illegal kick at that point in time. So you're going to have a free kick infraction, which again is going to be a 5 yard penalty. And then when the ball is kicked, they must have at least 4 K players must be on each side of the kicker. And Daniel, you and I talked about this, about having that one guy coming in motion, possibly behind the kicker. And again, as long as when the ball is kicked, if there's 4 on that side, and as soon as the ball's kicked, they're sprinting and getting to the other side, well, you're good at that point. And again, all these here are going to be, the bottom 2 are going to be the umpire here in New Jersey, who we're now placed behind the kicker. So we're back there with K. The neutral zone, we're going to have one of our wings going to be at the line there to make sure that nobody's offsides. And again, we've talked about this. There's latitude with this, with getting a K player in the neutral zone on a kickoff. We're really not going to bust chops with it if it's just a regular normal kickoff, if a kid's maybe a half stride across the line. But when we got an onside kick, we're putting the hammer down on that one. We're making sure that we're dotting I's and crossing T's on that scenario there. But typically, if it's going to be a deep kickoff, we'll go, hey, coach, watch number 2 from the far sidelines. He was close to being offsides. We're not looking to bust chops with that. But these are our penalties that we're going to have at the line of scrimmage. And so, Tommy, and your crew, you get that encroachment penalty. Who's giving that signal?
So we used to do the umpire, but now I think I'm doing them all with 6. I think they eventually changed that.
Yeah, you got to tell my crew chief that. Yeah, you got to tell my crew chief that, because he yells at me. You got to give that signal for that one. So that's, I
think that was an old 5-man with the back judge up there doing it, but I think now they're just expecting the referee to do it. With the way the game has evolved at the higher levels, cameras are going right to the referee anyway. So I think everybody sees they look for the guy with the white hat when they see the yellow come out.
Yep. But in that scenario, so my crew still has me doing that one, because I'm kind of right there in the midfield instead of the referee coming up from the goal line to give the signal, which we've talked about in mechanics-wise. So these are going to be ones that R is typically going to be signaling to the press box. So our next slide here, we got basically just your traditional type of kickoff and kick return formations here, but you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, you got your red dot designating the kicker, and you can see they are at a much greater depth, almost 10 yards. Again, each kicker is going to be a little bit different. But then you got basically what we refer to as 5 kicker 5. So you got 5 on each side of the kicker. Kicker is deeper, and those 5 and 5 are within that 5 yard barrier, so they're all good. You got our 10 yard neutral zone buffer area, and then you got the receiving team on the right. And again, what Coach Chip was asking, you can see here just on the diagram, they've got their outside players on the 45 yard line, so they're at the 15 yard depth. And again, typically they're taught to start going and getting depth as they see the kicker approaching, and making sure that the ball gets kicked deep is what their rule is. If you got a kid that's just going to turn and just sprint back to their spot and not even look at the ball, well, that's where you're going to see your onside kicks popping into play, or the special teams coach should pick that out. Hint, hint, wink, wink, coach.
Now, the reason I asked that earlier, Mike, was because, several years ago, they started doing that 4-man front on the return team. and then putting two about 4 men 10 yards from the free kick line, and then two more about 10 yards. So it's almost like having six.
Yep.
But there were two a little deeper. And some coaches were complaining that they got to have five, and the referee was saying, like, no, we checked. You don't have to have five.
No, 100%. That
I don't
is
think you
illegal
have to have any,
formation.
do you?
Nope.
Do what?
Just as long as they're beyond 10 yards, they're good. So it doesn't matter where they are as long as they're beyond 10 yards. So if you want to have
that's what I
11
thought.
deep returners, go for it. I don't recommend it, but go for it.
Well, that coach will be NFL, not for long.
Yep. All right, so Coach Chip, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Touching and recovery of free kicks, 615. You want to read this slide out?
All right, by receivers. I'm assuming that means touching by receivers. Any R player may catch or recover a free kick in the field of play. They can advance unless any R player has given a valid or invalid fair catch signal. R can catch or recover a free kick in case end zone. If kick becomes dead inbounds between goal lines with no player in possession or with joint possession, ball is awarded to R.
Pretty simple stuff there. Now, Mr. Barlow, I'm going to ask you this question. K kicks an onside kick and the ball is bouncing around, and an R player gets that ball that's bouncing around and returns it for a touchdown. We got a touchdown?
Touchdown. As long as they didn't give a valid or invalid fair catch signal.
So a lot of people out there are going to kill that play on the recovery, but it's still a kickoff return. So you can scoop and score on that type of kickoff return, even if it's an onside kick, because there is no muff at that point in time, which we'll talk about with K getting that or recovering that possible onside kick. But if R gets that onside kick, they can go streak right down the sidelines and go in. So that's just one of those little nuances that a lot of people kind of forget. And unfortunately, Daniel and I talked last week about the inadvertent whistles. That's a common place where you sometimes see the inadvertent whistle, which we're never talking about that again.
That is a horrible thing for triple option coaches.
Oh, yeah. I was there with you, Coach.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, hey, I have seen the scoop and score on the kickoff return, the onside kick. You get the candy hop, and the kid catches it on the run and checks out, which is what y'all were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times, a lot of people think that that's just going to be a dead ball because of the onside kick aspect of it, but it's still a live ball at that point in time. It's just that the kicking team can't scoop and score. All right, so we got Rule 616 here. We got touching and recovery of free kicks by the kicking team. Any K player may catch or recover a free kick if, and it doesn't matter what order, the kick has touched the ground. So we refer to this as the ball was grounded. And the kick goes beyond the plane of R's free kick line. So again, that's now going to be that 10-yard buffer. So the ball is grounded and goes beyond 10 yards. Now a K player can catch or recover that free kick. And we're going to talk about this in a moment. Any K player can recover a ball before R's free kick line if R touches it first. Touching is ignored if K gets blocked. If K blocks R into it, or K muffs the ball once it's contacted with R. So if I'm the kicking team and somebody has their back to the ball and I block them into the ball, we're going to ignore that touching at that point in time because that's basically unintentional. And when any K player catches or recovers a free kick, the ball becomes dead. So that's our scoop and score that we were just referring to on that onside kick. It will belong to the kicking team unless we have kick catching interference or there was first touching. Now, Tommy and I have witnessed this one firsthand. There's a team in our in our area that likes to do, and they do it very well. They have a kicker that will kick a line drive from one hash down the far sideline where they're going to have their widest receiver going down and catch the ball before it goes out of bounds. And that is kick catching interference, even though there might not even be a receiving player in that area. K needs to afford the receiving team the opportunity to catch the ball. They cannot catch the ball in the air because the ball was not grounded, even though it went 10 yards. So, Daniel, I see the wheel spinning there. You good with that one?
Yeah. It's it gets back to like it has to be grounded, but we talked last time about like if the kicker kicks it and grounds it immediately off the tee and then it's in the air, like that's always the weird one for us as coaches, because the rule says, hey, the ball's been grounded, it went 10 yards, I snag it out of the air. But of course, that's the one you can't do, right? You got to have the second touch.
Yeah.
Question.
So, Tom, I'll get to you in a second, Coach Chip. Tommy, when did the pop-up rule go into effect? Probably about 6 years now, maybe 7?
I think it was before COVID, yeah. So probably 5-6 years ago now.
So, Daniel, that kind of refers to what you were talking about with the ball being grounded immediately. And it was to circumvent what we're just talking about here, where the kicker approaches the ball and they smash the ball directly into the ground. And now it takes that large, obnoxious bounce where, again, I was a special teams coordinator in college and in high school, and we used to teach our kids. We would have basically 3 fullbacks on that far side of the field, and their job was to run full speed and just blow up anything in an opposite color on the opposite side, and then clear the path for our skill kids to come behind them to recover that onside kick. Well, because of the nature of that, because the ball being grounded, and now you have somebody looking straight up in the air to try to catch that ball, well, that's why they kind of took it out. So it is a safety reason. So, Coach Chip, your question now. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, damn, I can't remember now. Okay, yeah, here it is. So a squib kick from the right hash across the field to the left, and it's hit the ground several times. That means afforded an opportunity, right?
Absolutely. Because the ball is grounded at that time, especially because it was a number of times. Yep.
Yep.
That ball is free game as long as it goes that 10 yards.
I was the kook, the KOOK, the king of onside kicks. I did them all the time. If the kid can't reach the end zone and he can't pooch it up in the air so high it comes down wet, we're going to kick it on the ground every time and give ourselves a chance to recover.
Absolutely.
And believe you me, other coaches and referees hated me.
Hey, this goes back to weaponizing the rule book, as Daniel likes to refer to.
Well, I didn't do it to weaponize the rule book. I did it to keep from giving the best player on their team the ball in the open field, which is tantamount to giving a kid and turning a kickoff return into a slalom going down a ski slope.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're just running around, kids. Where do you put your best player on kickoff return?
Deep. That's your best athlete.
So I'm going to kick it to him and just hand it to him. Why don't I just run down the field and hand it to him? So Coach, I'm not going to do it. I refuse to give the best player on the other team the football, and that I did that my entire career. I'm not going to give the best player the football.
And I'm going to reiterate that I used to have a running back who couldn't catch a cold, but when he got the ball in his hands, it had to be a handoff. It couldn't have been a toss sweep or anything like that. You had to hand this young man the ball. Well, we still had him deep on kickoff because we would have the person in front catch the ball and give it back to him. And now you got the best athlete with the ball in their hands, just like you're saying.
That's
so
smart move.
That is exactly what we did.
But nope. why would I, as a coach, say, "Here, take the ball"? And so I'm going to squib it or onside kick it every time.
Yep. All right, Daniel, would you like to take first touch in here?
Got you. First touching of free kicks, Rule 617. Definition, first touching on a free kick touched in the field of play by any K player before it crosses R's free kick line and before it is touched by any R player. Such touching is ignored if caused by R pushing or blocking K into the ball. I'm glad we're giving that one back to the K team because, we talked about R touching first earlier. R may take the ball at any spot of first touching or take result of the play. R's right to spot of first touching is canceled if R touches the kick and then commits a foul, or any penalty is accepted for any foul during the down.
All right, Mr. Barlow, I'm going to defer to you on this one. Can you explain the third bullet point down and why that's important that we have that in there?
Please.
canceled or take the ball at any spot of first touching?
Take the ball at any spot of first touching or take the result of the play.
So most commonly, there's probably only one, right? Maybe it hits a K player in the back on the way down, but K can touch it multiple times before R touches it. So them touching it at the 40 and then again at the 10, obviously R is going to want to take the 40. But ball is not dead once K touches it. That's probably the most important thing. K has to possess it for the ball to be dead. So once K touches the ball, R can pick it up and they can do something with it. So if they do better than that spot of first touching, they can take the result of the play. Or if they don't do better than that spot of first touching, they can take the ball at the spot of the first touching. Again, with the fourth bullet point in there, as long as they don't commit a foul or accept a penalty for any foul during the down. Which
So
is
with
where
that-
it gets hairy. But
Does this? I got a question on timing. Let's just for what I'm just thinking. End of the game, we're trying to do a whole bunch of reverse passes and get the ball into the end zone, whatever. But K has touched the ball first, has first touching for whatever strange reason that would happen. When you reset and take the point of first touching, does the clock go back, or is all the time that's ran off just gone? How do we work that?
all the time goes still.
Okay.
Let me answer that. It does not go back.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning move in Oregon, brilliant move. Been there, done that.
So now with this is that caveat. This is that odd play where if K just touches the ball and they don't possess the ball, and R picks the ball up and they return it 30 plus yards, but then fumble the ball and K recovers that ball, R can take first touching. So we can bring it back to where that first touching occurred, unless we have that caveat of the penalty. So that's right. Where you tell the kids on those punts, pick the ball up and hand it to the official. Don't just touch the ball. Don't just wait. Surround the ball, pick it up, hand it to the official that's nearest, and let's get that whistle blown. Because if they just touch it and turn and run, well, us as officials, we're going to kind of wait a half second to see what R is going to do, give a little delay, but then we're going to kind of blow the whistle. But we're going to give that little pause.
But that's not a free kick, right?
This is going to, well, it could still be on the free kick, yeah.
Because a free kick, the ball is live
if it goes
after
10 yards,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
If it goes to 10 yards, you're good.
Yeah, first touching more comes into play on the scrimmage kicks.
With what
that's
Mike
what I'm
described.
thinking. I'm thinking punt right here about touching the ball. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scrimmage kick or free kick really is the onside kick where K touches it before it goes 10 yards. Then doesn't matter who recovers it after that. R still has the option for that.
So before it goes 10, it's just like a punt.
Yeah.
In essence,
before it's the first touching spot, and then whatever happens after that, R can still take that first touching spot.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
All right, Tommy, you want to take some pop-up kicks?
Sure. So actually in Rule 6, it just says a pop-up kick is illegal and gives you the penalty for it. So it's important. This is why the definitions are important for officials and coaches out there, right? The pop-up kick is described as a kick driven immediately into the ground. It strikes the ground once and rises into the air as if a manner that it's kicked directly off the tee. So this was put in, again, in my professional opinion, not those of the NFHS rules writers, but to eliminate the confusion of what Daniel was talking about further. What did the ball touch the ground? Did it not touch the ground? Our rule of thumb is really that it hits the ground once within 1 yard of the tee and then goes kind of above the heads of those guys on the front line. So 6 feet or so in the air. And penalty for that is just a free kick infraction. It's 5 yards and it's a dead ball foul. So as soon as we see that ball strike the ground once, go into the air 6 feet, we're killing it right away and enforcing a dead ball foul against K.
Oh, so you do blow it. Okay, that shoots down I was already dreaming up a scenario here. If I score a touchdown and kick an extra point to go up by 1 with 1 second to go on the clock, I'm fixing to do that kick, and when somebody touches it, the clock starts and the game's over.
Nope, it should be killed right
Unfortunately,
away.
now we're probably going to reset that to 1 second
Yep.
in that case.
I was already thinking that. Not
And
that I
Coach
would
Chip
ever
just
weaponize the rule book, Mike. I would never weaponize the rule book. Never.
no, only some people with the DC initials would do something like that. But just so you coaches know, one of our mechanics that we get into the habit is that we start talking and communicating what time the score happened, because that's going to remind us. Not only are we writing it down in our notebook that okay, they scored with 1 second left on the clock in your scenario, but we're also with our O to O's trying to remind each other, hey, 1 second, or 5:15, just throwing that score out there, just to verbalize it, to set that little reminder so that we know, because in all the scenarios when we're talking about the clock isn't going to start winding, and it's only on the referee's wind until R gains possession of it. Not even the touching, but gains possession, which a kick is a kick is a kick. So it's when it's not a kick, we're going to rewind that clock.
All right, hang on. Okay, so if 1 second to go, and I tell my kicker to find the big fat kid on the front line and kick it right at him, and it bounces off of him, the clock doesn't start?
No, it starts on any
Contact
touching
or-
other than first touching by K. So
Okay.
any touching beyond 10 yards or by either team, or touching by R anywhere.
So,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, if you like the show, don't buy Mike a beer, buy Mike a coffee. Yeah, because I said that wrong, and you're absolutely correct, Coach, and grabbing that one. So good job on you, Coach Chip.
Oh, I wasn't
And-
trying to get you. I'm trying to help, because I know there's coaches out there listening. I'm out of it right
Yeah.
now. I'm just trying to help them.
No, I'm glad you got me, because it reiterates it to me. So, but I do take exception to the big fat kid, because I was one of them. So,
Me too.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you really are thanking me, go to mybuymeabeer.com and buy me
Oh,
one.
look at that.
boom, nice. All right. So, Daniel, you and I have talked about this one here. Free kick shall not be kicked out of bounds between the goal line, untouched by R. And if so, we got a free kick infraction. And S19 for those people is signal number 19. So in our rules manual, we have our signals page. So signal 19, and as Tommy's doing it, it's the old wind there.
Oh, I thought he was being the Temptations there for a minute.
He's got some soul in him. He's got some rhythm. But so when we get our free kick infraction, we are giving the R team 4 options. And, well, we're kind of trying to limit their options, but 5 yards from the previous spot and re-kick, which we really frown upon because we don't want that kickoff, which, again, you're seeing less and less of the kickoffs because of the injuries. So not we, but the NFHS has kind of given more benefit to having taken it from 5 yards from the succeeding spot. So if the ball goes out of bounds at the 40-yard line, they're going to get the ball from the succeeding spot plus 5 yards, so they'll get the ball at the 45-yard line. So we're giving them the advantage of it. They could put the ball in play 25 yards beyond the previous spot. So if we're kicking from the 40-yard line, 25 yards would be 50, 40, 35, or declining the penalty and putting the ball in play at the inbound spot, which is exceptionally rare. And I know Tommy on one of this next slides goes over when that scenario will happen, but it's really, really uncommon. Usually you're going to get that 5 yards with the succeeding spot if the ball is kicked out of bounds before the 35-yard line, or you're going to take the ball at the 35-yard line, or actually I should say the 31-yard line, because you could still get to the 36-yard line in that scenario. If it's the 30-yard line, it's kind of the same. 30 plus 5 gets you to 35. But we're trying to take out the re-kick scenario. There are some coaches, though, that are going to re-kick, and keep going with it just because they want an opportunity to recover the ball, because there are the king of the onside kick people out there.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's touched by R and then goes out of bounds, R gets that ball of the spot where it goes out of bounds. There is no penalty, no foul for that one at all. So, Tommy, I'll let you take this one because you wrote the book on this. So, your realistic options?
Yeah, I'll give the Bill Sertival the book on this. I just put it into words on a PowerPoint slide. But basically anywhere from the R30 all the way back to the receiving team goal line. Your two options are going to be take the ball at the 25 yards in advance of where the ball was kicked from, which is normally the 35 in a standard kickoff, or allow K to re-kick from the previous spot minus 5 yards. If it goes out anywhere beyond the R30 yard line all the way down to K's goal line, first and 10 from the out of bounds spot plus the 5 yards, and the other option again, re-kick from the previous spot minus 5 yards.
All right,
Now,
I got quiz
the
time here.
R35, that's NCAA, right?
For where the kickoff is? That would be
The
K45.
R35 in NCAA?
Because in high school, it's R40, right?
Yeah, but the
K40.
25 yards from where we kick it is the
Oh,
35.
the R, yeah, R, my bad, not K, R, okay. Yeah, the 25-yard thing.
So, Mr. Chamberlain, I got a quiz question for you. We have
Let's
a
go.
safety. We got a safety. Kicking team decides to punt the ball. They got a booming punter. He punts the ball or she punts the ball. Beyond midfield, the ball goes now out of bounds at the receiving team's 35-yard line, but it goes out of bounds. What are their options of getting the ball?
So they have the same options, but it's going to fit because they kicked from so far back. It moves that R30 rule that we're discussing up quite a bit, right? Because they're kicking from the 25, if I'm not mistaken. They kicked from their own K25.
20.
20. Okay, so
Yep.
I was close. So now when we look at that 25-yard rule, now that's K45, and so obviously you bump that R30 rule up a little bit. So if they boomed it that far back there, we're going to be in that first section, that first and 10, 25 yards advance of where it was kicked from, so they can get it at the K45, or they're going to re-kick from the previous spot, which I don't know why you would. You're past the 50. Let's go.
Agreed.
Re-kick
I like
would be
that
from
mentality.
the 15-yard line, though. But yes, you are correct. So, and that's where us knowing that it's 25 yards in advance from where the ball was kicked comes into play, of truly knowing that, because all right, traditionally the ball's kicked off from the 40-yard line at the high school level. All right, you got an encroachment foul. We move it back to the 35-yard line. Now the ball goes out of bounds. They want it 25 yards from there. Oh, that's a simple one. But let's say we had a 15-yard penalty that they wanted enforced on the kickoff. So now they're moving the kickoff back from the 40-yard line back to the 25-yard line. Well, now they kick the ball out of bounds. We got to know, okay, coach, you get the ball at the 50-yard line or 5 yards from where it went out of bounds are the most realistic options in that scenario. Coach Chip, you had your hand up. Was that a question, or were you giving us a 4?
I was just saying 45. 45.
Yeah. I feel like the sneaky part of that quiz was the fact that it's a punt, but it's still free kick. A kick is a kick is a kick. So
Correct.
the rule still stands.
Does anybody know why? And I'm not saying this because I know why they give you the option for a free kick after a safety that you can punt it, but they don't give you that option on a kickoff. That must go back to the 1800s is all I can figure.
I'm only thinking of the NFL as my reference point, but think about where the punters are. They're 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they're booming 60-yard punts. That 60-yard punt actually happens from the line of scrimmage. So they're technically kicking the ball 75 yards in the air on a 60-yard punt. If it's,
I'm not saying why you
here.
do it. I'm saying why they give them the option, Mike.
Because that's what the book says, Chip.
Because the book says so.
I honestly couldn't tell you why. Yeah.
You can't do it on a regular kickoff, but you can do it on a free kick after a safety. But I just wondered why.
So now here's
Nobody
our
knows.
scenario of when R would possibly decline that free kick out of bounds penalty. And Tommy does a great job here of putting it into a true scenario. You got a kickoff happening from K's 40-yard line. They attempt an onside kick. The ball bounces and goes out of bounds, bouncing at the K45 where it hits K22. So it hits, you got first touching. The ball continues to roll and then goes out of bounds untouched at the R48. Their options, well, you could take the ball at the 35. Wouldn't really want that. You could take the ball at the 47, first and 10, 5 yards. You could take the ball from 25 yards from the previous spot, 35-yard line, or you can decline the penalty and take 1st and 10 from K's 45-yard line, which is where that first touching happened. So you're gaining a good amount of yards. The 5 yards from the succeeding spot is going to be to the 47-yard line, so you're gaining 2 more yards in that scenario. So again, very rare, but we have a first touching, ball out of bounds on an onside kick. So there's a lot of different things to take into play. And again, this is why us people in the stripes, we get together and we kind of make sure that we have all of our options to give to the coach so that they know what their options are, because it's very easy for the coach just to say, we'll take it where it went out of bounds. Well, coach, we'll give you another 2 yards if you take this one.
That's cool.
All right. Moving along, touchback on free kicks. This one's kind of an easy one. It is a touchback if the free kick breaks the plane of R's goal line. Unless R chooses the spot of first touching by K, a kick is 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 a kick. Shut up. Kick is a kick. So unless R chooses spot of first touching, once the ball breaks the plane, we're going to have ourselves a touchback. A fair catch free kick, the ball is live until successful or failed once beyond the goal line. Tommy, want to explain that one?
Yeah, so it's basically just telling you, right, any normal free kick, once the ball crosses the plane of R's goal line, it's dead. But for a fair catch free kick, when you could score points, the ball technically doesn't become dead until either it goes through the uprights or it's failed beyond the goal line. So we just leave that. And same thing applies to a field goal, which is technically a scrimmage kick. Ball's live until it's successful since it's a scoring attempt. But otherwise, it still would be a touchback once it crosses the plane of the goal line.
So is it safe to say that in basically every scenario, once it crosses the goal line, crosses that plane of the goal line, we're going to have a touchback?
Yep, unless it goes through the uprights.
Yep, and we got points.
On a scrimmage kick, I should say.
Yeah, true.
Well, technically, a free kick after a safety is good for 3 points if it goes through the uprights. So there is a free kick you can score on. Correct?
No.
Yes, a free kick after not a safety. I mean, after a fair catch.
After a fair catch, yeah, that's
Oh, yes, okay. Going to say, Coach, if you got somebody that can kick the ball 90 yards.
If safety goes to the uprights, it ought to be 3 points. It ought to be 6 points.
Yeah, you're right.
I can see the coaches
90 yards. You ought to be given the keys to the kingdom.
You are correct there. All right, so replaying the free kick downs. We're going to kind of move through this one. So we're going to replay the free kick down. The free kick down is not repeated unless the foul occurs prior to the change of possession and acceptance requires a replay, which again goes back to the choices that we talked about. And again, NFHS was trying to limit the re-kicks. We want people taking it at that spot. Unless we have a double foul, fouls by both teams where we're going to replay the down, or unless there's an inadvertent whistle. So we're going to just mumble that one and move it along because there's never an inadvertent whistle. It doesn't happen. We're good like that. All right, moving right along. Beautiful.
Oh, God, I love it.
All right, so we got another graphic here. Kind of reiterates what we had in our other one with our formations, but you can see you got the kicker more than 5 yards back behind the ball. You got a minimum of 4 players on each side. You got your free ball zone, which is basically from the 50 all the way to the goal line where it may be recovered but not advanced by the kicking team once it's grounded and lands into that free ball zone. And if it goes beyond the end zone, we got ourselves a dead ball and a touchback. So basically just reiterating all the different things that we talked about. All right. Crazy stuff happens here. We're continuing with Rule 6. This is where I merged them all together. So, Coach Chip, this is where you are going to fail the quiz because you didn't get this part of the study guide before we talked. So, Daniel already talked about this one, our definitions here about what a kick is, the intentional striking of the ball with knee, lower leg, or foot. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody knee the ball, but it's in the rule book because it's part of the leg. For kicking purposes, I should say. I've seen knees hit the ball, but for kicking purposes. Your free
I
kicks
agree.
are your kickoffs, following a kickoff or a fair catch free kick. And our scrimmage kicks are basically going to be our punts and field goals are going to be referred to more commonly. We refer to them as scrimmage kick, but people always kind of refer to them as field goals or punts. So scrimmage kicks and the NFHS rules where punts and field goal doesn't matter there's no difference. Tommy, what is the one difference?
Field goal can
What's a
score
field
points.
goal? Yeah, field goal is a punt that can score. That's it. Can't punt the ball through the uprights, Coach Chip. I'm not letting you have that one.
Can drop
All right,
kick it
Coach
though.
Chip. Tommy, you can't give them the
Yes.
answers to the test already.
I know what a
Coach
drop
Chip, would
kick
you like
is.
to take this
I'm the
line?
oldest one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, due to the length of today's video, I'm cutting this one short and going to make it into a two-part video. So be sure to check in next week as we finish up with part 2 of Rule 6, the kicking game, with my guests, Daniel Chamberlin, Coach Chip, and Tommy Barlow. Thanks again.